5.1, the quadratic formula. So problems like this, we could use completing the square with, but it gets kind of difficult to complete the square if there's a number out in front of the 6, like there is right here, or if your middle number here is odd. So we're going to learn an alternate method that you can use to solve for x, and that's called the quadratic formula. So right here is the quadratic formula, and you can either write it down now, or the slideshow is on Google Classroom, so you can look it up later. So it's negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a for ax squared plus bx plus c. So these a, b's, and c's in the formula refer back to your equation. So the number in front of this x squared would be your a, the number in front of x is b, and then the last number is c. So the steps to use the quadratic formula: you identify your a, b, and c, and then plug those values into the formula, and then evaluate and solve for the variable. So let's go over this first example. So I'm going to identify my a, b, and c in this equation. So my a would be 2 because it's in front of k squared. 8 would be my b because it's in front of the k. And c would be negative 10. So from here, I'm going to plug everything in the formula. And how I plugged it in with parentheses is important, because otherwise I'm going to put it in my calculator, and if I don't put it in like it states here, then my calculator won't calculate it correctly. So what I did, so for b, I plugged in 8, and then for b squared, I plugged 8 squared in, and then 2, and my c is negative 10. And then down on the bottom, plugged in 2. Okay, my first step is I'm going to take what's inside the square root here, a squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 10, and I'm going to plug it into a calculator. So I'm plugging this in the calculator, and I'm typing the parentheses just like it is in the formula. So I'm going to type 8 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 10. And I get that to be 144. So if I go back to here, inside my square root is 144. And I got that from what I plugged into the calculator. Okay, I still have negative 8, and then 2 times 2 is 4. So from here, I'm going to take the square root of 144. So the square root of 144 is 12. And then from there, I'm going to take negative 8 plus 12 and negative 8 minus 12. So the plus or minus means that I'm going to have two equations. One, negative 8 plus 12, and then the other one, negative 8 minus 12 divided by 4. From this step, I am going to combine my terms. So negative 8 plus 12 is 4. Negative 8 minus 12 is negative 20. And then I'm going to divide both of these by 4. So 4 divided by 4 is 1, and negative 20 divided by 4 is negative 5. And that's how I solve the quadratic formula. I'm going to skip to example 4 because it's a little trickier. Okay, so example 4, I am going to identify my A, B, and C by the order the numbers are in. So A is 6, B is -11, and C is -17. And then plug it into the quadratic formula. Notice in the formula there's a negative b, but my b is negative, so I'm going to have double negative. So negative, -11, plus or minus, and then I'm going to have a -11 squared minus 4 times 6 times -17 all over 2 times 6. So what's inside my square root? I am going to type in my calculator. So I can type in -11 squared minus 4 times 6 times -17, and I get 529. So inside my square root, I get 529, and this turns into positive 11 because I have a double negative. Remember, a negative, whenever I have a double negative, it turns into a positive. So on the outside, it turns into positive 11. And then what's inside my square root, I'm going to take the square root, take the square root of 529, and that's 23. So I have 11 plus 23 and 11 minus 23 all over 12. And then from there, I take 11 minus 23 over 12 and 11 plus 23 over 12. So 11 minus 23 is -12. 11 plus 23 is 34. And then -12 divided by -12 and 34 divided by 12. So I get n equals -1 and n equals 2.8. Okay? That's how you use the quadratic formula. There is 4 examples, so I showed you 2 of them, but there's 4 of them online. I want to show you your assignment, how the assignment works. So you'll log in, and this first part, they just want you to enter it into the quadratic formula. So you first have to figure out what A, B, and C is. So A would equal -2, B equals -8, and C equals 5. So we're going to plug where B is. I'm going to delete the B, but don't put in any other spaces. So -8, and then B again is -8. A is -2. And then C is 5, and A is -2. I press submit. So if I entered everything in the formula correctly, then you can press submit. Now be careful, if you put any extra spaces in, even if your numbers are correct, it'll mark you wrong. And then you can type in what, then plug this in, solve for your values, and then plug your values into the formula. Okay, does anyone have any questions for me about this? Okay, then this is all I have for you. Make sure, as a reminder, to sign up for your test time for next week. And if you have any questions about the quadratic formula, please feel free to contact me.